I'm Frank Brogan, and as billed, I'm the Chancellor of Florida's State University System. That's going to be important in just a moment, but not now. The first thing I want to do is thank all of my friends at TMH and the Walker Center for the very kind invitation to be a very small part of an amazing celebration. That's what's key today, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But now I put my Chancellor hat back on, and will acknowledge that to my right are a group of some of our best and brightest from Florida A&M University's Allied Health Program. Ladies and gentlemen, would you raise your hands? They're rather easy to spot. They're all decked out in their green and their orange banners, and as we all know, strike, that's the key. It just goes to show you the kind of partnerships that the State University System of Florida has all over the state of Florida, in health, in education, in the law, in all of the various fields and disciplines in which we work. And it is great to see some of our best and brightest young people out here learning their trade, but as they do, also helping the quality of life of the people with whom they come into contact. We're very proud of you, ladies and gentlemen. I will also keep my Chancellor's hat on to talk about accreditation for just a moment. We know something about accreditation in the world of education, and I've been in education for almost 35 years, and whether I was a fifth grade teacher or a school principal, a school superintendent, I recognize at that level the importance of accredited schools. Can you think for a moment that your child would go to a non-accredited high school and how that might place them in a very difficult and compromised situation as they look to rotate from high school and find a college that they wanted to attend? One of the first things that universities and colleges do is look back at the transcript, look at the high school, and find out, is it an accredited institution? It's more than just a stamp on a transcript. It's more than just a mark or a distinction, as the doctor mentioned so aptly. Accreditation is a standard, a set of standards, a rigorous navigation to make certain that, in our case, a school or a college or a university has done all of the right things with its people and its programs and its facilities and its equipment to assure that that stamp of distinction, which is called accreditation, means more than simply a designation. It's what's behind that designation, and the fact that the Walker Center now has its 3-year accreditation is more, I know, to my friends with the Walker Center than just, well, we don't have to worry about that for 3 more years. It's the pride that goes into it every single day to assure that that accreditation is provided, but not just by way of designation, but by way of assurance to the people who come to the Walker Center that the people, the programs, the facilities, the activities are all world class. That's what accreditation really should mean at the end of the day. A distinction of world class that separates those who are from those who are not. You know, it's been mentioned twice today, the fact that when people are going through the nightmare associated with breast cancer, the fact that one of the first things that goes through the mind of those who have heard that news is, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I handle this? Because it's a beginning of an amazing journey, not only for the woman who is going through it themselves individually, but also the family, the caregivers, the support network, who want to make sure that that individual is being provided the very, very best care possible. And when you look at Tallahassee, and I did at one time in my life, have to look at Tallahassee through different eyes. As a 10-year resident of Tallahassee, a person who came here in 1994 with his young wife and set up shop in the world of politics and education as we assumed the role of Commissioner of Education. We fell in love with this community in the Big Bend area because of the people, largely. Not only is it a beautiful physical location, but the people here are beautiful. This is a great quality of life place to live. But when my late wife Mary was diagnosed first And it was an insidious way to find out because she had that form of breast cancer that grows almost inward and is very difficult to detect via the traditional mammograms or even self-examinations. It is an insidious disease regardless. That when she was finally diagnosed via needle biopsy, we knew then that we were going to begin a most remarkable journey together. And so we did. But the great news is we didn't begin it alone. We had so many families, so many friends, and we lived in a community that recognized that we were neighbors. Not only neighbors in the traditional sense, but a community that organizes itself in a way to assure that when you are going through something so painful that you don't have to go elsewhere to find help and support and love to deal with it. We were able to stay right here in Tallahassee in the Big Bend area. We came right here for so much of our treatment. We found an incredible caregiver by the name of Brian Sheedy, who is standing back there this morning, who will be my friend forever, because he didn't just take care of us. We felt like he loved us. We felt like we were a part of his family, and we felt that we were a part of the TMH family. That's why I came here today, not as chancellor of the state university system. That's just a hat that I happen to wear. I took the great honor of the invitation to be a part of this so that I could represent the entire community as just an average citizen who found in a great time of need a remarkable place full of remarkable people who cared more than you could ever imagine. So today, I apologize. On behalf of Sharon Walker, someone else that I happen to know, this is, after all, a very small town, isn't it? Claude and Sharon Walker were friends of ours, and of course Claude continues to be a friend of mine to this day. But we went through remarkable journeys almost simultaneously in many ways. And at the end of the day, I'm very fond of saying this about Mary's journey, and thus about Sharon's journey. Neither one of these remarkable women, young, strong, vibrant, dynamic, beautiful, neither one of these women lost their battle with breast cancer. They just ran out of time. That's very different. And so I attend things just like this, not only because I care, but because I'm keeping a promise that I made to Mary Brogan a long time ago, that even though her time was about to run out, that whatever time I had left, that I would spend trying to help other people understand early detection, education, intervention, appropriate treatment, the opportunity for personalized care, and the chance to put together a support network that is so very vital to those women who are facing this terrible disease, so that they will never, ever have to feel as though they are alone. And I don't have to go to a lot of places around the state to do it, even though I do. I have the opportunity just to come a few blocks from my home and stand in the atrium of Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, celebrate the 3-year accreditation of the Walker Center, and perhaps remind people, because even the choir needs it once in a while, that indeed we do live in a remarkable community, and we live in a community that cares. And we live in a community that cares so much that we are willing to go beyond what many others do and organize ourselves around not only our citizens, but the most fragile and vulnerable citizens amongst us. So today, not from the Chancellor of the State University System, but today from Frank Brogan, average citizen, and by golly, be glad my 6.5-year-old son isn't here, because those pink cookies and pink lemonade would be in serious jeopardy today. I'm going to leave you with a fast story, but it shows you what a wonderful place this is. And I happened to be at an amazing breast cancer event in Southwood. Were some of you there just a few weeks ago? Yeah, you and 6,000 other people. It was an amazing day. And I told this story there, but I think it's most appropriate that I tell it here today because this was the place it took place. When our great doctor came to see us at home, when Mary was in the waning days of her fight with breast cancer, it was fairly obvious that she was running out of time. And we had two choices. We could either keep her there at home in bed, or we could bring her here back to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, where we felt perhaps she might be more comfortable and people would be here to keep her more comfortable. And I chose to do that. So being the lieutenant governor at the time and always traveling with security, and I'm fond of saying when people say, "Is that your bodyguard?" I always say, "Does this body look like it needs a guard?" We came back to TMH and we put Mary to bed upstairs. And long night and long early morning the next morning, I was sitting outside of her room catching a break, and I was sitting next to one of my security guys, an incredible person, still a friend of mine today. And it was very early morning, and you know how hospitals are early in the morning. They're typically pretty quiet places. And this one was, until suddenly there was a great buzz of activity. Doctors, nurses moving about. The story, as best we could make out by purely listening, was the fact that there had just been someone brought into the emergency room downstairs, a young man with massive head trauma from an automobile accident. And people rushed around and moved and did what they needed to do, and then, of course, the floor grew quiet again. And my security friend and I talked about how sad that must be for everybody involved. And then we began to talk about other things once again. Well, here's where the story gets interesting. It was more than 2 years later, after Mary passed away, that I met and began to see a beautiful young woman who is from very close to here, Wakulla County, Crawfordville, 4 generations. And one night over dinner, we began to compare notes about our lives. And of course, she was well aware, because it was a very public thing, that I had lost my wife to breast cancer a couple of years prior to that. And she mentioned the fact that she and her family had gone through a tragedy. She had one sibling, her junior by 2 years, who was taken from she and her mother and father in a single-car automobile rollover in Wakulla County. When, I asked, and she mentioned it was just a little over 2 years before. And you can see where this is going. We began to further compare notes and times and dates. In that moment, when I sat upstairs hearing the buzz of activity and the noise about a young man being brought into the emergency room, that was Courtney's brother. And while I was upstairs with the vigil with my wife taking place, as her time ran out, she and her mother and father were in the emergency room with a vigil watching the life run out of her young brother. And we wouldn't know it, wouldn't even meet for so long after that. But I leave you with this, and I said this at the breast cancer rally. If anyone believes that life is just a simple collection of random circumstances and coincidences, they're missing the greater point. There is a plan here. We are all part of it, whether we know it or not, whether we want to be or not. And I am convinced that Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and the Walker Center, for so many people, is a part of their plan. And the way that they go about their job and their responsibility is amazing. But the way they go beyond that to care for people as human beings is something there again. Congratulations to the Walker Center, TMH, to all my friends who are here today. Miss May, it's always good to see you. And please thank everyone associated with this dream come true, 3 years of accreditation for the Walker Center. Congratulations.